The one is mandatory inclusion of teaching of breast and cervical cancer bill 2022. This has already been subjected to public hearing by the Committee on the Health Services, and they submitted the report to this committee. And I pointed out here that they expanded beyond just cervical and breast cancer to include prostate cancer. So I'm sure when the NRDC deals with it, they will know how to package it to deal with cervical, breast, prostate, and other cancers. The important point is to find a way to teach the children and let them be aware, so that when they become adults, you won't have any sort of say that you go to the chemist and buy that. Whereas you have just one of the bills is actually by bill. The other is co-sponsored with Honorable Sununu, who was here earlier. The second one is a mandatory inclusion of preventive measures and teaching of sexual and gender-based violence 2022. So let me give the floor to, and these two bills were initiated by the OCI Foundation. So, OCI Foundation, that is you understand. You do a lot of great programs.
Okay.
So the floor is yours. Barrister Vivian. What's the other name?
The chairman of the committee, the honorable members of the committee, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vivian Obinwa, rightly said, representing OCI Foundation in this gathering. OCI Foundation has an arm which is called Arm Our Youth Health Campaign. What we normally do is we focus on initiating, or rather, innovative ideas, proposing innovative ideas towards sustainable approaches to solving some of the challenges in our society. Onyebuchi Chris Ifedora Foundation. Yes. Okay. Now, first we started with scholarships, skills acquisition for the youth and giving them startups, scholarship to some selected students, then breast and cervical cancer awareness, and we also identified sexual and gender-based violence as some of the silent killers in the society. Right now, we are here to seeking to introduce into the curriculum of secondary schools in Nigeria the preventive teachings and measures against sexual and gender-based violence in a compulsory subject, civic education in Nigeria. This will address most of the sexual and gender-based issues we have in Nigeria. Secondly, to increase the proportion of all secondary school students, male and female. As we know, gender issues are not sexist, so it affects both men and female. Also, with correct knowledge of the concept of SGBV, including the components, basic human rights and their basic body rights too, preventive practices and the tips, referral pathways, risk factors of silent culture and non-reported, as well as the identification of who can be a potential perpetrator and how the perpetrators sprawl, among others. These provisions of this bill are novel and will have a wide-reaching effect, as children both in the urban and rural areas will have equal opportunity to learn at the same time. And it will also be an all-inclusive, like I earlier stated, both boys and girls will have, because all of them also experience this SGBV. and offers a cost-effective and sustainable ways of tackling issues of SGB, unlike already when we have victims. We are talking about having addressing issues when it has already happened. So this will actually be preventive in the sense of it. The aims are clear, specific, achievable, and realistic. We have the rationale behind this, the proposition of this. First is, the idea is to introduce a sustainable and preventive approach to management of SGBV issues other than the usual victim survival-based approach we do here. We talk about increasing the penalty, punishments, and having sex offender register and other things, then litigation when the victim has already suffered the damage. So we are more like looking at prevention, and which is better, they say it is better than cure, and it's more of cost effective. Also, one of the things is we conduct, we usually go for school advocacy programs. In this, we also use what is called, we design a questionnaire in this process, which is kind of, we don't put names, what's it called again? Anonymous questionnaires, which we give to students when we go for advocacy programs. So the feedbacks from these programs were very mind-boggling. Students always come crying in our arms, telling us what has happened to them and not what has happened. And when you read the content of the response, the feedback from the questionnaire, you will be marveled what has happened, what the experience of some of them. So this pushed us to think about putting this into the curriculum. Also, we have, like I stated here, the recent issue, there has been a recent increase in the reported cases of deaths of school children and distressed parents relating to SGBV. The most recent we can talk about here, the late Elizabeth Oshaya of the state, the 14-year-old Karen Hapuch of Premier Academy, Lube, and that of the 11-year-old Don Davis of the Life High School. We know the issue when it happened. Recent infamous Chrisland College girl saga, the bullying and torture of 12-year-old Sylvester Aron of Brown College, Lagos. The Let's Go to singer Osinachi, we know that we also have the children who are in the midst. These are the secondary. You can hear me. I can go ahead.
We can hear you.
Yes. So give me touchlight. These are the secondary, because when these things happen to parents too, or caregivers, we also have secondary victims. We have the children or relatives of the person, the victim himself. So these are one of the things that made us to move into that. And there are potential significant benefits in this, as the children will go ahead to learn the basic concepts. I've said this before of SGBV. They will get to learn their basic body parts, human rights, association, protective laws. We'll talk about the VAP, the Child Rights Act, and all those protective laws we'll have, which is civic education advocate for that. The knowledge of who can be the perpetrator and all that. They should also learn the preventive skills and reportage, referral pathways, what will happen, where they can call when such issues arise, or what they can do. Now, integrating it into the curriculum will lead to a life-saving outcome both genders will benefit from. Our proposed approach will be cost-effective, timely, sustainable, given that existing teachers and the facilities will be used. We advocate making this a law, not a policy, as oftentimes government policies fizzle out with the change of administration. So making this a law ensures the provision outlives different administrations. Coming to the significant plan and implementation.
I think that one.
Okay.
We can leave it.
Oh.
Because they are help you out with that. But they will have the paper, I know.
Okay. So looking at the facts and figures regarding the statistics of SGBV globally and nationally, every day, on average, 137 women are killed relating to issues of SGBV. This is a statement made by the UN Under Secretary General and UN Women Executive Director in March 2021. Also, a UN Population Fund report published in April last year stated that there was 20% increase in the domestic violence incidents across the UN's 193 member states during the COVID-19. However, according to our National Demographic Health Survey, NDHS, 33% of women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical and sexual violence. We also have so many reports from UNICEF, WHO, and all the rest. These issues are always in the society. We know about them, but the experience from the school outreach mostly propelled us, because each day you go to school for this program, there must be so many students telling you their experience, and especially with the anonymous form we gave them to feel very free to speak up, because their names are not there, but we're able to get their class age and all that. That was very expository, and we know there's a problem. Then when we go for advocacy, it's only the schools in the cities that benefit from this. And we've thought it wise that nationwide, it will affect both people in the rural areas, and everybody will have a chance to learn. In conclusion, often in Nigeria, like I stated earlier, and other African countries, LGBT issues always focus on the victim survival-based approach. We talk about providing shelter, this and all that for victims when it has already happened, the damage has already happened. And these issues can be prevented if people are equipped with the right knowledge. By increasing the punitive measures, like I said, creating sex offender registry for naming and shaming of this. Litigation is always difficult. We know what is happening in Benue with Ochaya's case, which at the end of the day, the victim or the survivor may not even get justice at the end of the day. So it's better we prevent some of these things. And the provision of this bill will change the narrative and will save lives. This can be a legacy bill for the Ninth Assembly and its other sponsors. The generational impact of this innovation in addressing the prevalence of social and gender-based violence and its related offenses in our society through education is huge. Thank you very much.
Both bills. I just received is anybody here from the Federal Ministry of Health? Okay, they just submitted a memo endorsing both bills and giving it their full support. So, yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, this is quite important for what we do here. Yes, there are issues which we do know, but you're here for lawmaking bills out. That's a different context for having a problem that exists. I'm sure we're aware that we have laws that address violence as a whole, gender violence, sexual trafficking, child abuse in those domains. But talking about civic education, compulsory subject, and we would like this to be taught in schools. Take a different direction also, especially some parts of our society, still very conservative. I'm talking about passing your bill in the House. By the way, I'm in support of your bill. And by the way, my background, I'm a medical doctor. So you know I'm with you. So it's a different, we had bills about women in the last year, one of them, and the bills didn't pass. That is why it's important to address these issues here before it's presented in the full House. People would like to know, if you want to teach in a secondary school, civic education, how do you address sex? Are we already talking about sexual education? But violence, that one is pretty, it's not difficult to talk about violence in civic education. That's for much social studies, really. So, the prof about curriculum will tell us how it's going to assist you, how we can do a curriculum to address that, and what age, what stage in school are you able to talk about this. Now, I even think that's an easier part than you talking about cancer now. How do you now get someone in secondary school to address the issue of cancer? Yes, in the biology class. I think the challenge is to get the curriculum expert here to tell us and assist you how you are going to address this curriculum. For this, your bill to pass the House. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable Elijah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I commend the young barrister for this initiative and her goodwill and the OCI Foundation. My first recommendation is for you to take this bill for a wider consultation. I know why I'm saying that, because I come from a background that for you to talk about sexual education is a taboo, and then there is a proper way of talking about it, of not even to talk about teaching it. So, and I'm sure you have not gone to that stage. You need to bring in our Islamic scholars. Yes, they need, and the Christians too. And the Catholics, you know, yes, you need to bring them. That's why I'm talking about wider consultation. And culturally too, I am an advocate of, violence against women and girls, But culturally, in my, research, I found out that in some cultures, it is not anything to beat a woman. It is not, an offense to beat your wife, for a husband to beat your wife. Yes, it's normal and it's acceptable, and the women refuse to come out, to talk to us, because they too, the women, they don't see that as a problem. They don't see it, as violating the human rights of the wife. So, even culturally, not even talk about religious, culturally, you can meet people like Saudatu Mahdi. She is also a civil society advocate. Even after it has, there was a sexual violation, going down to the root of the matter, at the end of it all, the victim is asked to come and tell us, look, we do not want any legal support, we do not want anybody to hear about this, we are withdrawing this case, we did not ask you to do that. And then that will be the end, because the victim has her right, the parents have their right, and religiously, you have no right, to even come up with an issue without the consent of the father. Religiously, you have no right. The father has the final right. So, for wider consultation, I would, prefer you do that for the meantime, and then collaborate with of course, our organizations. I'm not talking now as a lawyer, as a legislator now. I'm talking to you and advising you as your advocates too, Yes, to support you, so that you learn more, go for wider consultation with both religious and also leaders of the country, especially in some parts of Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. I really support this, but I want to remind us that when we are talking about gender-based violence, we shouldn't always emphasize on the sexual component of it. As you know, it's beyond that. There's economic gender-based violence, social, of course financial, emotional, and the rest. And the greatest perpetrators of gender-based violence in Nigeria are the federal and the state governments. I hope you know that the three arms of government, the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature, we are in this house when 9 bills that are belonging to women were all shut down. And on the executive side, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs or the State Ministry of Women Affairs are the least funded, they have the least releases, and they are the most sequestrated. That's also from a gender-based violence. Then on the judiciary too, cases concerning gender-based violence are usually given the priority they deserve, and they're usually modeled up on technicalities, as Honorable Duku said. So please, focus on that bigger picture. And that's what we're going to do on this bill. Gender-based violence is the greatest perpetrator, is the government of the state and the federal. We're going to continue to educate ourselves on that. Thank you very much.
You want to respond? Otherwise, I will prefer that we let the elders respond to some of the issues. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Before I wanted to talk or to speak on the presentation, but I think to do justice on I think I better go through it so as to have a coherent and logical presentation of the issues at stake. First, by way of introduction, we want to commend this very committee for its listening ears to even now not only listening to what has is coming from government organizations, but also non-governmental. I think it's a way of encouraging them so that they become involved about, and we commend this committee for that. Now, introducing preventive measures and teachings of breast and cervical cancers and the preventive measures of sexual and gender-based violence into the school curriculum. That is what we are expected to do. Now, my organization recognizes preventive measures and teachings of breast and cervical cancers, as well as preventive measures of sexual and gender-based violence as critical knowledge worth entrenching into the school curriculum. This is because these issues are fast becoming serious threats to the lives of many Nigerian citizens, particularly the women. We must therefore take the bold steps to address them with urgency and informed strategies. We also note that there is a global push to tackle these challenges through education and public enlightenment. Given the above, Mr. Chairman and members, we submit to the fact that it is very imperative for Nigerian citizens, particularly the young ones, to acquire knowledge and skills that will enable them to recognize the symptoms of breast and cervical cancers, but most importantly, the preventive measures. We also submit that introducing the preventive measures of sexual and gender-based violence is a worthy cause, given the overall positive impact it will have on the well-being of the Nigerian citizens. Expectedly, the school, and by extension the school curriculum, is the most viable means for getting many citizens of Nigeria equipped with the knowledge and skills to prevent the occurrence and spread of issues challenging our society. Now, I will now talk on the modalities for introducing these into the school curriculum. The curriculum is globally recognized as a critical element for nation building in any society that aspires to meet developmental needs, create its own future, and at the same time advance its rating in the Global Competitiveness Index. For the curriculum to achieve these goals, it must be, in the context of the above, Mr. Chairman and members, the NADC, as responsible and responsive federal government agency, statutorily empowered to develop curriculum for schools in Nigeria, has over the years evolved a curriculum development process that is inherently focused on meeting national needs as they arise, with aim in creating a better society in the future. One of the critical elements of our curriculum design process is its ability to accommodate what we refer to as emerging issues. This is the reason why NADC has been recognized by UNESCO IBE as a West Africa Regional Center for Curriculum Excellence. In the implementation of this framework, we have been able to collaborate with several organizations and agencies to introduce critical emerging issues into the school curriculum. These include the introduction of values education with ICPC, drug education with NAFDAC and NDLEA, capital market studies with Securities and Exchange Commission, election education with International Foundation for Electoral System, financial education with Central Bank of Nigeria, entrepreneurship education with UNIDO, trafficking in person with NAPTIP, disaster risk reduction education with NEMA, among others. These are all emerging issues. We wish to reiterate the importance of introducing preventive measures and teachings of breast and cervical cancers, as well as preventive measures of socio-cultural values and ideals, as well as curb the recurrent incident violent abuses in many homes. The introduction of anti-breast and anti-cervical cancer teaching into the academic curricula of all Nigerian secondary schools in the 36 states and the FCT, when fully implemented, will be another way of tackling the cancers in ways that will be wide-reaching, cost-effective, and sustainable. The introduction of anti-breast and anti-cervical cancer teaching into the school curricula will help achieve an increase in the proportion of young people with correct knowledge of the early symptoms, risk factors, and preventive practices of the two cancers. The effort to introduce preventive measures of sexual and gender-based violence into the school curriculum has already commenced, but can be strengthened and facilitated through further collaborations and engagements of critical stakeholders. Opportunities exist in some subjects, both at the basic and senior secondary education levels, not necessarily civic education, for the full introduction, teaching, and learning of these issues. Curriculum development is a dynamic process that provides opportunity for the entrenchment of new knowledge, competencies, and skills into school programs of study. In this regard, NADC is poised to scale it, that is policymakers, content specialists, and practitioners, teacher educators, and teachers through a series of workshops, meetings at different levels, and appearances at different approval conventions. In conclusion, NADC wishes to thank the House Committee on Basic Education and Services for the opportunity given her to make contribution to this bill. We wish to also submit that the introduction of issues into the curriculum may not necessarily require any legislation, as its essence and process is already covered by the mandate of the NADC as provided for under the Act 53 of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We do assure you of the willingness and readiness of NADC to provide technical expertise in the effort to leverage the curriculum to promote healthy living among Nigerians. Thank you.
So are you saying that when we're looking at the title now, take out the compulsory subject of civic education, that it can be in any of the curriculum?
Yeah.
We understand very well what you're talking about. And the world will change and leave them behind. They have to come to terms with what is going on in other parts of the world. We are not talking of sex education. That has not been mentioned anywhere in the document. And I believe that these are things that we don't want to just drop them anywhere in the curriculum. It has to be a place where when the child goes to the school system, they are able to engage this subject and knowledge. The reason they put the compulsory subject there is that in this same country, some people sat down and cancelled the teaching of history. Some Nigerian elites, they don't want Nigerians to know where they are coming from, how they got to where they are, how they related, the origins of their institutions, structures, values, and engagements. They just want us to walk like people are coming from nowhere. And this.
Sorry, sir, just we are even trying to say targeting civic education does not have much relationship, but even English is more relevant than civic education. Teaching these issues in English is more effective than putting it in civic education. Why do I say this? In English, you teach composition. You bring a passage about these kind of issues in the write about this, you know. You go to comprehension. Give a passage. At the same time, you are teaching the child on ways to prevent these kind of things, and at the same time teaching him the comprehension. But in civic education, you are dealing with civic matters which have no, and then you go to biology, you go to, you know,
science, health education.
I will not agree that English would do it better than civics. Because if I was teaching civics, today I go to the board. Today we are studying types of cancer. Wow. They take their notes, you know, and then we begin by defining what is cancer. Okay? Then we go into what types. Are there some that are peculiar to men? Prostates. Are there some that are peculiar to women? What are the causes of cancer? Nobody really knows. But there are people who have science as guessed it comes of this, it comes of this, it comes of that. If you spray your apples and grapes with almost 55 different types of chemicals, you know, and you pluck it and you eat, you've taken in things that may have carcinogenic implications. Now, I believe that package of disseminating knowledge to a student who has taken that notes is easily referred to. You know, English will do it well, but I believe civics, for example, where you are studying society, humanity, interactions, relationships.
That is social studies, sir.
Once again, these two bills are quite commendable, especially coming from a young lady who should know, since I should presume she hasn't left university very long ago. So she should know about issues of sexual and gender-based violence. Topic, of course, it certainly has to be done under what my learned professor calls infusing to the relevant subjects. But the bottom line is that these two subjects are issues which have emerged and are continually growing into a hydra, and they cannot be wished away. Way to put them for relevance, you will now look at, if you are talking about breast and cervical cancers and all cancers, a common man will easily tell you that it's called know yourself. If you know the parts of your body, when it's normal, when it's not normal, when it has diseases, then you'll know where to put it. Sexual-based violence, if you are lucky to be or gender-based violence, if you have ever lived close to a very querulous monogamous family, you will know why it should be taught. But it goes beyond just teaching. I think it is a whole round sensitization issue. It should be taken as a
sensitization issue, so that when the students at the basic level, I can't imagine any teacher going in depth talking about breasts and vaginas and examination of breasts. You are inviting trouble, and that's what I find on my table. So you will know the crowd and the kind of language to use. You infuse it into relevant subjects. Don't give it over important to excite practical experiences. That's what the ministry has to say. And certainly, curriculum don't overload our young children's subject matter curriculum. Their brains, we should give them time to be children, to play, to be truant, and to come back and learn. So we support this.
So I looked at the facts Madam just said. We are talking about sensitization. We've been doing that, but you can attest that if you visit a school today and particularly talk to a class or two, you will not be there probably the next 1 year or thereabouts. So many sets will roll and pass without learning anything, and usually it's within the cities. We've tried to extend it beyond that in other states like local areas, and the results are clear. I wish I can publish some of them. There are so many. I mean, we have a crisis. That's the right way to use. We have a crisis. So there's need, urgent need. And if you notice, most of us benefited when we were in school. We talk of moral instruction. We talk about guidance counselor. We also did a research. How many schools have guidance and counselor today? Of a truth, these people are not there. Most parents even need to be. They lack. I don't know. They also need training.
The right places so that it will continue, and in the right way so that it will not generate a backlash, because we have people who are looking for ways to prevent trouble. On that note,